Republican representing Florida's 8th Congressional District. And good morning, Congressman.
Good morning. Great to be on with you this morning.
Well, thank you. Great to have you. And Congressman, you were there in the chamber yesterday when King Charles was speaking. So can you give us a sense of what the atmosphere was like?
Well, it was just a historic atmosphere. I mean, as you know, we've been longtime allies with Great Britain, and a nation that, of course, we helped in World War I and World War II, and, of course, won the Cold War with. And to have King Charles there was a special moment, and we need more moments like that where all Americans can come together and kind of celebrate not only our long-term friendship, but hopefully an enduring one. And I think it was just a great day for America, and I think Charles showed a lot of grace and a lot of support to America. And we needed one of those days where all Americans came together.
Yes. What struck you the most about his message? Was it the symbolism? Was it the substance? Or was it sort of the implicit challenge to America to continue its leadership in NATO, Ukraine, the Anglo-American alliance?
Well, I think it was a mixture of the things you just mentioned. I think that he touched on a lot of important subjects. But as Marco Rubio said very well in Munich a few months ago, this is supposed to be a two-way street. America can't carry all of the burdens. And I think that Charles came there with a humble nature, as a person who recognizes that America is the leader in the world, and he's asking for us to step up as always. And what we're asking the rest of Europe to do is step up as well, whether it be eliminating this evil regime in Iran or paying their fair share to be a part of NATO. And so I think it was a very constructive conversation. I'm glad to see the president, as always, is looking for new friends and enhancing alliances. But I think Charles had a good message, which was, again, America is that dominant force. We need you. And our response basically back is, we want to be on your team too. But remember, it's a two-way street, and we're expecting that we're true teammates and not expecting us to just exclusively carry the load.
Yes, and I think that's a fair message. It is very interesting that there has been this expectation continuously that America will continue to bear an outsized burden, while not on the king's part himself, but with this real sense of entitlement from too many of our friends in Europe and elsewhere. And so, President Trump's message, while occasionally inartfully phrased, as the president can occasionally do, is not an unfair one.
I totally agree. And look, we learned the hard way with Spain. They wouldn't allow our planes to fly over, of course, Europe, or their country when you had this entanglement with Iran. And remember, under Article 5 of NATO, going back to the 1940s, we're an alliance together. And America has always stood strong with our European friends, stopped the attack of communism as they tried to push further and further west. And, of course, we held the line because America was that dominant superpower since the late 1940s. And so we're asking our friends to simply readdress the situation, recognize that we're either all in this together or we're not. And these are the kind of tough conversations that true friends need to have. And I think it was outstanding that King Charles chose to come to America and our 250th anniversary and talk about potentially reigniting that relationship. And as we told Great Britain, because we're doing it here in America, you need to be very careful about immigration, because you can, in essence, lose your country if you allow some of the principles that made your nation so great to be undercut by folks who don't share those same principles of law and order and the idea of property rights, capitalism, etc., that have made some of these national superpowers exactly that, a superpower.
Yes, it's interesting. If in the name of pluralism you end up with a country or a majority of people who do not embrace the principle of pluralism, and it seems as though Britain is at something of an inflection point with that.
I think you're right. I mean, you've seen how Poland has been very smart with their immigration, whereas Germany has major challenges. And And look, we are a nation of immigrants, but as you know best, I know you're great on history, is that when an immigrant comes to another country, they embrace the culture of the new country while respecting their past. But the idea that when people come here now, sometimes they think, I'm going to come here for the entitlement program. That's not the way to go. You come to America for opportunity, freedom, the ability to create new opportunities your family's never had in the home country. And that's the idea of America. If you come here, you seek the opportunity, not the comfort of other people's good graces in the sense of a welfare program. We are a very hospitable nation. We want to help others, but you should always come here looking to contribute, not to take.
Yeah, one of the things that I thought was interesting about King Charles more recently was, he has been very eager to embrace the new arrivals to Britain, and he was willing to release all kinds of messages for example, for Ramadan, but he refused to release an Easter message. And of course, there's nothing wrong with his willingness to release Ramadan messages, in an effort to be inclusive and welcoming. But I thought it was strange that he would make a point then of not being even-handed and releasing an Easter message, especially when in his capacity as king and head of state, he is actually the leader, the head of the Church of Britain, which is, as you know, Congressman, an Anglican church.
That's exactly right. And this is, again, one of the frustrations we feel sometimes, that we believe in freedom of religion. It's one of our founding principles with, of course, the First Amendment. And this is a very basic principle. But when you start elevating one versus another, you lose that objectivity. And I think sometimes this is what happens with the woke mindset, that they live in this counter world. We're looking for opportunities for everyone, and as long as you're showing respect for each other, it's okay. But when you start forcing your way of life on others is when you lose what's the intent of the First Amendment. And so we're going to have to readdress these type of situations. It's a little disappointing to see King Charles doing it. We're not going to take away from yesterday's, I think, smashing success, but he needs to recognize, again, that, as you put it perfectly, the Church of England, that being the Anglican Church. But in America, we believe in freedom of religion until, again, you start taking away the rights of others. And you see that infringement taking place in many parts of our country today, including places like Minnesota.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's a little bit concerning because, of course, we all believe a lot of the time in the United States, people forget that along with the part of the First Amendment that says there's not going to be an establishment of religion, that there is the free exercise clause that guarantees people the right to worship freely. But you run into problems when you start having a religion that is also a political system, and it starts coming into that. And so I think that's where people start to be nervous and question the implications. But, I guess we don't want to criticize the king too much while he's on American soil. And so, going back to the speech itself, there is something that is very remarkable about a British king addressing Congress as America approaches 250 years of independence. Did you think that kind of felt like history, or did it feel kind of like a reminder that in some ways our two countries still anchor the West?
Well, I think the great thing about America and, of course, England is the fact that we share not just common language, but a lot of common industry. And as you know, because of the distance between England and the colonies, now the United States, it was just that reality that we had two different ways of life for a variety of reasons. But we do share the values that made us amazing countries: property rights, freedom of religion, etc. And we are concerned that England's moving away from those basic principles that made them one of the world's great powers, despite not having a lot of land mass, which we are blessed with. And so I think what we are going to try to do as the king is here is remind him that, what makes these great nations it's not the growth of government, it's growth of opportunity for others. And getting back to the issue with religion, it's one of the reasons why I joined the anti-Sharia law caucus, is because Sharia law is counter to our United States Constitution, and it very much denigrates especially the rights of women. And so that's why we need to stand vigilant for our Constitution, which promotes freedom of religion, equal rights under the law. Sharia law does not share those values, and it's the reason why a lot of us are concerned that as people move to this country, we want them to accept the freedoms that the Constitution brings. Because remember, the Constitution is designed to simply protect the God-given rights that God has given us. It's not the government that gives you rights. It's you're born free. And Sharia law is very much counter to that. And again, especially in a case for women who don't share equal rights under the law.
And Congressman, as a woman, I could not agree more heartily. It is always a matter of complete bewilderment to me that more women, more American women, and especially all our friends on the left of the feminist movement don't understand what exactly the implications of some of this could be for women in America. And don't push back more strongly, especially when they see some of what has gone on with our friends in Great Britain. It is a complete bewilderment that, for example, when they saw what was going on with the Iranian soccer team, when they see what has gone on with the scandals in Britain having to do with the grooming gangs, that they cannot find their voice to speak out more forcefully against this kind of abuse of women, and that they spend their time looking for these nonsense, this nonsense Handmaid's Tale business in the United States, and they have nothing to say about actual real abuses in other parts of the world.
That's exactly the case. And look, we just need to simply stand up for what's right. And women have been put into a second-class citizenship under Sharia law. I find that unacceptable, and it's the reason why we are taking a stand in America. And the best way you can always lead is by leading by example, not just talk, as you put it perfectly. And these are the challenges of the leading nations of the world, is to, when immigrants come in, embrace them, but have the expectation that they're going to be a part of the solution, not a part of a kind of a welfare class that has happened too often. This is, again, compassion is not handing out something, it's handing out opportunity, and that's what we are really focused on. So I'm thrilled to be a part of the Congress that really believes in the free market, once again, that we're going to move towards building new jobs and opportunities, not building more government buildings.
Well, that's I think that's fantastic, and I hope you keep on going for it, Congressman. So thank you so much for taking some time to share your impressions of both the King's speech in Congress yesterday and the larger implications for the U.S.-British relationship, one that's been going on for several centuries now, 250 years and counting. We're grateful to you for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Please give my best to Joe as well. See you soon. Have a great week.
Absolutely.